Thank you, everyone. There's two of me here. I'd like to say welcome to the club that you never wanted to join, first of all. And as a patient here at Juravinsky, I'm delighted to be speaking to you in the building where I get tremendous care from a great oncology team. I'm under the care of Dr. Tozer. About 3 years ago, I wasn't feeling quite right, and I had some symptoms that a lot of my women friends, women in their mid to late 40s, were experiencing. Finally, a trip to the gynecologist revealed a lesion on my cervix. I lived through those awful days, and I'm sure many of you have lived through those days between appointment and pathology results, the anxiety of waiting for the word from the doctor. The diagnosis came back as mucosal melanoma. And for most of you here, that may be the first time you've heard of mucosal melanoma. I had certainly never heard of it. It's a subtype that's particularly rare, a little rarer than cutaneous melanoma. So I had this tremendous sense of guilt for bringing this awful thing into my wonderful family. My husband is a really smart, funny, unwaveringly supportive guy. I have this little girl that's so strong and wise beyond her years. And you all know that the diagnosis time is particularly dark. I wanted to touch on that time that we all face in those early days. Usually, from what I understand, the first line of treatment for most melanoma is surgery. We heard a little bit about that. So off to surgery I went. I had a radical hysterectomy in November of 2014 here at Juravinsky. Pathology from that surgery indicated they hadn't got the best margins, and that's a word we've all heard, margins. That meant surgery number 2 in January of 2015. Back I went. So I had a lot of recovering to do that winter of 2015. I was offered interferon as adjuvant therapy, and we've heard a lot about how rotten that is, and I figured if I had 6 months to live, I didn't want to be sick those 6 months. Although it wasn't that long ago, immunotherapy drugs weren't widely used, and I was reading everything I could get my hands on and heard about this great new drug called ipilimumab. In fact, I had a friend who was on the trial and had done really, really well, but sadly it wasn't yet available. So with no real treatment options, I felt like I didn't have control over this thing. So I did a fair amount of naturopathic treatment. And in hindsight, I think I wasn't particularly confident about what that might result in, but I knew I had to give some of this stuff a shot. So I did some naturopathic stuff. I got stronger over that time and did return to work, but my CT scan of March of 2015 showed spread to my liver. The good news, and you know you really have to stretch for good news when you're talking about metastatic melanoma, was that ipilimumab was now available. And I was thrilled. So my friend who had the IPI really warned me, stock up on Imodium, the diarrhea is brutal. So we started treatment in the spring, and I sailed through. I had no side effects. I felt fantastic, in fact. I felt so good that I worried this stuff wasn't working. So after treatment, my husband and daughter and I took a trip to Alberta, and we hiked and went horseback riding. We're having a great time. And if you've ever been to Lake Louise, or probably seen pictures of it, you imagine that beautiful blue lake surrounded by those majestic mountains, and we were in the middle of it in a canoe on our second last day, and my husband was paddling in the back, and I was snapping pictures. My daughter was in the middle, and I suddenly didn't feel so good. And I said to my husband, I don't feel so good. And he said he's never paddled faster. So the side effects were kicking in, and by the time I got home, I started into what turned out to be about 8 weeks of pretty serious ulcerative colitis. And poor Dr. Tozer was running a colitis clinic here in his clinic. I got sick pretty quickly and was treated with steroids. Did get a referral to a gastroenterologist to help sort out some of this toxicity, but sadly it wasn't quite in time. My bowel perforated. like some of the patients, I read about the trials, and there were several patients with perforated bowels, and I always had that sort of in the back of my mind, and sure enough, it happened. So surgery number 3, I had an emergency bowel resection back here at Żerwinski, and I was really quite compromised at that point after all of that colitis and massive doses of steroids. So I was worried, of course, through that recovery that we weren't doing anything about this little thing called melanoma. But I really didn't have a choice but to just try and get over the surgery and gain back some of my health. So I had another scan in March 2016. That was 6 months after completing IPI treatment. And I got a call from Dr. Tozer at home, lovely guy who calls me at home, God bless him. My tumors had shrunk a lot. So remarkably, I mean, I hadn't expected after that length of time that there would be a response, but indeed there was. So I began to leave my life again, my new life, the kind where you don't make far-off plans and you buy ticket insurance when you book your theater tickets, but you live fully. We've taken great trips, and I resumed doing some of the things that I love to do. Some friendships have deepened and others have diminished. I think you'll agree that's all part of life and certainly part of being a cancer patient. Today my liver mets are stable. I have no other sites so far. But about a year ago there was a small lump on my chest, sort of a subcutaneous lump. Guess what? It was melanoma. But I was grateful to be able to start pembrolizumab, the other great immunotherapy drug, with far fewer side effects. So I've been on pembrolizumab for about 10 months now. To Dr. McWhirter's point, not sure when that's going to stop, if we'll just keep blowing through. But my husband and I talk a lot about this situation and how this type of diagnosis changes things. And something that strikes us both is you get really used to being unsure. You used to know things, and you used to be sure. You used to make plans. But our life has become a roller coaster of reacting, and certainty has become our new normal. I can tell you that I never thought I'd be in a room with this many people with a story that included my cervix. I've become a bit of a junkie for all things immunotherapy and melanoma and everything that floods my inbox every day. Thank you, Google Alerts. If you haven't set those up, it's a great idea. This really is an amazing time in history to be a melanoma patient, I think. It's not amazing for everyone, of course, but I've found taking control where you can is an immense help. And I know you're all at different stages, and some of you will live some of these things, but I would say be an informed patient, ask your doctor about the trials and the research, take the support where you can get it, and if you haven't yet had that well-intentioned friend say that all you need to do is eat lemons every day, or kale, or whatever the latest thing is, it's only a matter of time. Thank you.